What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the vlog. Thank you for clicking on this video. We are back in Dallas, Texas playing a Poker House 1-2 cash game and we are crushing it. Let's get into the video. Welcome back to the poker vlog, everyone. This is number 21. Pretty crazy we've gone this far already, but we're going to hop into the usual 1-2 at Poker House and we're going to get into a crazy Texas session. Let me tell you that right now. You know it's going to be a good one when it starts with pocket aces. Let's go. There's a $5 button straddle. The under the gun player limps, and the hijack raises to $20. I'm in the small blind here, obviously going to be 3-betting, so I decided on a size of $75, and we only get one caller, and that's from the hijack player. Going to a flop, which is 10-5-5 rainbow, seems really good for me, and typically when the board is dry and paired, I like to slow play my overpairs. There's not going to be a lot of cards that we're not going to want to see on the turn. On paired boards, our opponents can't really suck out on us with 2-pair and stuff like that, so it's a really good time to slow play. Also, it's pretty hard for my opponent to have anything, so I start with a check, and fortunately, he puts out a bet of $75. I'm going to continue the slow play, keep my hand under wraps. If I had like ace-king, ace-queen, maybe a hand like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, it's not crazy strong here, I would probably take this line as well. So I put in the call, and the turn card is a little bit of overkill because it's the ace of hearts. We improved to a full house, and we're only beat by one hand, and that would be pocket 5s. I don't really love this card because there's only one ace left in the deck, and it's probably going to be difficult for us to get paid. If our opponent had a hand like Jack 10 or King 10, I'd prefer the turn to be lower than the 10, but hey man, all good. I'm going to start with a check here, and unfortunately they check it back. The river card is a brick 3, and now I'm going to have to go for value. I'm not really sure what we can get called by. I'm going to target some lower pocket pairs, maybe a 10. So I put out a bet of $110. And our opponent goes into the tank here, not really expecting to get paid. The board is just so dry. But eventually he does stick in the call, which is pretty awesome. We show our cards, and obviously we are scooping this pot to start the session. Let's go. Moving right along, we are on the button straddle. We put $5 on there, and we look down at Jack 5 offsuit. Not a very pretty hand, but there's 6 limps over to me. We are going to see a flop which comes above average. It's Jack 10-5 with 2 clubs. The action starts by checking over to the cutoff. He bets out for $20. Now, on the button, the board is pretty wet. There's a countless amount of straight draws and flush draws that need to be protected by and get value from. So I put in a raise to $60. Seems pretty standard to me. 2-pair is going to be a pretty vulnerable hand, especially on this board. We only get one caller, and that is from the cutoff. So we're going to go heads up in position to a turn, which is the queen of spades. It seems like a fine turn card. It puts a double flush draw out there. 8-9 now makes a straight, but the cutoff starts with a check. And now I think we have to bet big, try and get max value from all of his draws here. So I decide on a bigger sizing of $165. I guess I didn't really look at the cutoff stack because he only has $225, so probably should have just put him all in or bet a bit smaller. But regardless, he puts his stack all in, and obviously I'm not going to be folding, but I think we might be behind here. The board is just really, really scary for us, but regardless, I'm not going to be folding for another $60 or so. I put in the call, and we're going to go off to 2 runouts here. The first river is the 3 of clubs, and the second is the deuce of spades. A couple flush draws come in there, but the villain shows queen 9 offsuit for just top pair. We can beat that. We show him the Jack 5, and we're going to scoop an over $600 pot. The session has gone pretty good so far, and we hope to keep that ball rolling. The dealer pushes us the pot, and we add those chips to our stack before we look down at pocket queens in the hijack. The action folds over to me, and I raised up to $25. There's a player in the small blind who now 3-bets to $75. The action gets back to me, and I think both options are going to be fine here, calling or raising. This player seems like a bit of a tighter player, so playing pocket queens in position seems okay to me. I don't really want to 4-bet and then get 5-bet and just play a really tricky pot. So I decided to just put in the call this time, and the button straddle folds, so we're going to go heads up to a flop, which is really good. It's 8-5-5 rainbow. Obviously, we're still beat by all of his aces and kings, but he can still have value like pocket jacks, pocket 10s. Ace king would probably still bet this flop, so he puts out for $120. I'm obviously not going to be folding here. I put in the call, and we're going to see the turn card, which isn't that great. It's the king of hearts. Now we lose to a big part of his range being ace-king. Surprisingly now, he decides to start with a check. This is pretty relieving to see. I definitely didn't want to face another barrel. He could probably be checking this turn card with pocket kings. That would make a lot of sense. But I want to see a free river card. I put in the check, and the river is the 5 of spades. We now improve to a full house, and once again, he starts with a check. Now I believe we have the best hand. No way he checks ace, king, aces, or kings on this river. And I think he has a hand like pocket jacks, pocket 10s, maybe even pocket 9s, or ace queen that we can get value from. So I put out a super small bet targeting those hands. I don't think they're going to call a very big one, so I put out a bet of $80. The player goes into the tank for just a second before putting in the call. We show pocket queens and he mucks his cards. Nice to squeeze a little bit of value there at the end of the hand. I presume he had one of those hands I mentioned earlier, and I'm pretty happy with the way I played that one. We're in the cutoff with $1,500 in our stack, and we look down at pocket kings. Now, follow along because there's a lot of pre-flop action here. The under the gun raises to $15, and the middle position player calls. I'm going to be 3-betting here. I make it $60 to go, and the action gets to the button. He decides to not call, not fold, but 4-bet. And it's really small. It's $135. Basically a min click here. I'm loving life. Obviously, I'm not going to be folding kings pre. Now, the small blind goes all in for $328. This is an absolute dream. Obviously, would hate to run into aces, but I mentioned earlier, not going to be folding. The action folds to me. The button has about $600, $700 in his stack. So, do I just put in the call or do I put in the rejam? I decide to just stick in the call here, maybe entice him to come along as well. We have a very strong hand and we want to keep them in there. Unfortunately, the button decides to fold and the small blind shows pocket queens. This is an absolute dream spot. Let's go. $824 pot. Can we hold? Flop comes 9-4-6 with 2 clubs. Really great for us. The turn is the ace of clubs, improves us to a flush draw, and only leaves our opponent with 1 out, being the queen of spades. The river card is the 6 of diamonds, and we are going to win this pot. Let's go. Everything's going right for us. We get the coolers going our way, and the button said he folded pocket jacks. So, nice fold there. Kind of a setup. Kings, queens, jacks, but happy it went our way. Moving right along to the next one, we are on the button straddle with ace-7 offsuit. The middle position player raises to $20, and the big blind calls. Now, this hand doesn't really play very well multi-way, but in position for $15 more, we're going to see a flop here. I put in the call, and we're going to go to a flop which is 6-5-4 with 2 diamonds. Big blind checks, and the middle position player now bets out for $30. And the action's on me. I have an open-ended straight draw as well as a backdoor flush draw with the ace of diamonds. A pretty decent hand here, 2 overcards. So I think I could go raise or call here. I kind of like playing the aggressive route. Defending my straddle, I have all the 6-5, 6-4, 5-4, 7-8. So I think it's definitely going to favor me. But in the moment, I just decided to put in the call, which I think is all right. Now the middle position player decides to check, and I think this is a great spot to start bluffing. He could probably have a hand like ace-king, ace-queen that c-bet the flop and hates this board now. He could probably get to full, which would be a huge W for us. So he checks, and I put out a bet of $50. It's a little under half pot, but I think that's all we need to really get the job done. He decides to stick around, though, to see a river card, which is the 4 of hearts, and now he decides to check again. Now, do we want to blast off, or do we want to check? Blasting off doesn't really make too much sense, and holding the ace of diamonds isn't great, meaning we want our opponent to have like ace-8 of diamonds, ace-7 of diamonds, ace-jack, ace-queen, etc. Having a 7 in our hand is pretty good. We block straights like 7-3 and 8-7, but would we really play a straight like this? We probably would have raised the flop, and I don't really know if we can have any credible hands. Also, this river card is pretty bad for us because if our opponent had a hand like pocket 10s, pocket kings, pocket jacks, we probably would not love it if we had a hand like 6-5, 9-6. So I decided to just give this one up. Doesn't really make too much sense for me to bluff. And I think it's a good thing we didn't because he shows pocket 7s. He had a pretty strong hand. I'm not really sure if we would have got him to fold, but pretty happy with my shutdown there. When you bluff, you got to make sure that your story makes sense. You got to pull a credible line. Think about what you would do if you had value. And I think I would have raised a straight or 2 pair on the flop or even a set. So it just didn't really make too much sense. In the next one, we have Jack 9 of clubs. I'm first to act, and I raise it up to $20. We get a call from middle position and the button, so we're going 3 ways out of position to a flop, which is ace, 7, 8 with 2 diamonds. We have a gutter ball, but that's about it. Obviously, the ace is pretty good for our range, but betting into 2 players is not really going to be ideal. I think I would go with a check here with some of my ace-x hands as well, so that's what I do. I start with a check. And fortunately, the action checks around, and the turn card brings the king of clubs. It's another good card for my range. Pocket kings would definitely be in my checking range on the flop, and I think I would slow play as well a couple ace-x hands like ace-king, ace-queen on the flop. So I decided to put out a delayed c-bet here of $40. And we only get 1 customer that's from middle position. The river now is the 3 of spades, and now we have a decision to make. Does the middle position really have a strong hand here? We could give him some credit for checking an ace on the flop, but I think once me, the pre-flop aggressor, checks, he's probably going to want to bet that hand. I think it could be likely he has a hand like queen 10 of diamonds, jack 10, something like that, maybe a combo draw or just a gut shot on the turn. The river blank is really good for us to blast off. We just have jack high, and I want to win this pot. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put in the overbet to $215. Put max pressure, act like we checked aces, kings, ace-king on the flop. So that's what I do, and the villain pretty quickly folds. We get it through with just jack high. Aggressive poker is what I love to see. If you guys are looking for some juicy online cash games, there's a link in my description that'll take you to a few clubs that I play on. The tournaments are unbelievable, and the cash games are amazing. You can play anywhere, anytime on your phone, computer, tablet, whatever you want to do. Click the link in the description for more info, and let's get back into the video. Moving on, we have Queen 10 of spades. In this one, I'm going to get a little bit out of line here. The under the gun player raises to $15. I think 3-bet or call is both fine. I decided to go for a 3-bet here to $45, which is a mistake because he only has about $150 to $170 in his stack. And the action gets over to him, and he goes all in for his last $170. The action's on me. It's about $125 more for me to call. Do we want to gamble? Everything's been going right. We have a big stack. Maybe give some action. I don't know. I was probably feeling the gamble mood in the moment. I decided to put in the call, putting my gamble face on, and it pretty quickly goes away when he shows pocket kings. We are absolutely crushed. We're going to need a miracle here, and we get it. Queen 10-3 on the flop. We flopped 2 pair. Oh my god, this is crazy. The turn card is the 4 of hearts, and the river card is the 5 of diamonds. We are going to scoop this pot against pocket kings. What a suck out. Oh my god. Lucky from us, and we are going to rack this session up and head to the cage, but this isn't it. We're going to head over to the Poker House live stream. I'm not going to include that in this vlog, but we played another crazy session afterward. This session, we were out for a profit of $1,675. Absolutely insane. It wasn't even that long of a session. We just ran like God. So we're going to fast forward to the session we played after the live stream. We still have our big stack of $1,700, and we're going to play some crazy hands. We take our stack from the stream, which is about $1,700 to the 1-2 streets, and we started off here with ace jack on the button straddle. There's 2 limpers, and the big blind now raises to $23. There's a middle position caller, and now the action folds to me. With ultimate last action, we are going to be pumping more money in the middle here. Ace jack is a decently strong hand, and there hasn't been any crazy preflop action so far. So that being said, I pump it up to $90. Surprisingly though, both players stick in the call, so we're going to play a chunky pot here, multi-way. Good thing we're in position, and we're going to a flop, which is ace 8-5 rainbow. Pretty decent for our hand. We're probably going to have the best hand a lot of the time. I assume my opponents would check it to me, and that's exactly what happens. So the action checks to me, and I have a decision whether to bet or check. Saying I have the best hand a lot of the time, obviously we could still be beat by a set, 2 pair, and maybe possibly ace-queen. I think ace-king would 4-bet preflop most of the time, but you never really know in these live games. I think it's okay to check or bet here. Checking would definitely induce some bluffs on the turn. It's going to be pretty difficult to get 3 streets from this hand. So I decided to get my 2 streets on the turn and river. I check it back for deception here, and the turn is now the 9 of hearts. The big blind leads out for a bet now of $70, and the other player gets out of the way. The action gets to me, never going to be folding, and I don't think raising makes too much sense here. Our opponent could be bluffing with a hand like Jack 10, Queen 10, or he could be value betting a hand worse than ours like Ace 10, maybe even a hand like Pocket 10s or Pocket Jacks. So I'm going to put in the call here and see what happens on the river. The river card is the 7 of spades, and he goes for a check now. It's a pretty wet card. Now any 6 makes a straight. And I don't really love the situation we're in now because there's really only one hand that's going to call us off here, and that's probably ace 10. Call us off for a decently sized bet, of course. I think we could probably bet pretty small here and get called by just one pair. Pocket 10s, maybe like 10-9, 10-8, stuff like that. We're now beat by ace 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, so pretty bad situation we're in here, but I decide to go for some extra thin value here, and I bet really small, $35 I put in the middle, just squeezing out a little bit of money here, and he does put in the call. We show our hand, and we are good. The dealer pushes us a pot, and we are starting this session off pretty nicely here post-stream. Moving on to the next one here, this is one of my favorite hands of the video. I have ace 6 of clubs in the low jack. The middle position player raises to $10, and I think this is a situation where you should probably 3-bet or fold. I decide to take the 3-bet route, of course. I make it $30 to go, and we go heads up to the flop with middle position once he puts in the call. So, going to a flop which is king 9 deuce rainbow. It's going to be really good for my range. We also have some backdoor draws as well. Backdoor clubs alive for us, which is always good. So when he checks, I think I'm going to bet my entire range here for about a third the size of the pot. Maybe even smaller sometimes, but we're pretty deep. So I decided to go for a third and make it $20 to go. I don't really expect this bet to accomplish too much here. We're probably still going to get called by all the hands that beat us, like any pair, any decently strong ace with some backdoor draws. But this is definitely going to help us set up some turn and river barrels. So that's going to be the plan. I bet out for $20 and he puts in the call. Now the turn card definitely is a one we like to see. It's the jack of clubs, improving us to the ace high flush draw. Any club on the river would give us the nuts if it doesn't pair the board. So when he checks, we are going to go according to plan here, putting in the bluff on the turn. I definitely want to bet pretty big here. We want to get him to fold a hand like pocket tens, queen jack, jack 9, jack 10, hands like that just want to fold against a decently sized bet. So I bet basically the size of the pot for $105, and my opponent basically snap called me here on the turn, which is a little bit indicative of a not very strong hand. If he had a hand like 2 pair or better, he would probably think about what he wants to do here. So I think he's capped at 1 pair or a draw. That's always nice to see. Hopefully we can hit our river card here. If not, we'll probably blast off. Like I said, when he snap calls me here, it's pretty indicative that he has 1 pair. Going to the river, which is the 4 of spades, we don't hit our draw, but he checks it over to me, and now we have a decision here. Do we want to barrel off? Having clubs isn't the best thing in the world, but we're sitting with ace high, and I think it would be pretty easy to get him to fold a hand like king 10, maybe even king queen, obviously a hand like jack 10, pocket tens, 10, 9. Those hands I think are definitely going to be in the folding range. Like I mentioned, I think if he had a hand better than 2 pair, he would have check raised the turn. That being said, we're probably going to have to bet pretty big to get him off 1 pair, so I decide on another pot-sized bet, $315. With just ace high, we are bluffing here. My heart is beating, and he goes into the tank before folding his cards. We get one through with just ace high. Happy we went for the bluff there. It's a little bit of a tell there on the turn, especially in live poker when you just get snap called. Like I mentioned, if our opponent had a straight or 2 pair or a set, they'd probably want to think if they want to call or raise or at least think about their decision. When they have 1 pair, they're just like, I probably have a 2nd pair and a gutter ball. I just want to see the turn card. I'm not really sure what they're trying to get out of that snap call, but happy we went for the bluff. We have a few more hands here for this vlog. We look down at ace king offsuit in middle position, $2,100 in our stack, and this time there's an under the gun straddle for $5. I started off by raising to 20, and we get 3 callers, so we're going 4 ways to a flop, which is pretty good for us. Top 2 pair, ace king jack with 2 spades. Surprisingly, though, the under-the-gun player leads out into the field for $20. Very strange quarter lead here. Really shouldn't ever be a thing that is done here, but he did it, and that's how it goes here in Texas. That being said, with top 2 pair, I'm definitely going to be raising. I make it $60. I think could even go bigger. Charge those spade draws and straight draws, so I just make it 3x. I think going $80 to $90 here is way better, especially with 3 other players in the hand. The cutoff decides to cold call my raise, which is definitely pretty surprising, and now this is where the hand gets wild. The action's on the big blind, and he goes for the check raise to $250. What is he trying to say he has here? He obviously could have queen 10, flop the nuts, and that would suck for us, but he could also have a hand like king jack or ace jack that we're still ahead of. So when the under the gun player folds after that $20 lead, which was very strange, I don't know what to do here. I don't think I can be letting go of my hand quite yet, especially with the backdoor spade draw being the king of spades in my hand. I decide to stick in the call here and evaluate the turn, and the cutoff goes all in for less, $237. So we have quite the pot brewing here. I'm just praying that he doesn't flop the straight. Obviously, top 2 pair is pretty strong, and he could still be value betting worse. He never has pocket jacks, pocket kings, and pocket aces, and if he does, it's very unlikely because we have both an ace and king in our hand. The turn card is the 9 of clubs, and now the action is on the big blind. Not too surprising when he goes all in for his last $330. Sitting with top 2 pair, not really loving life. I think it's very likely he could have queen 10, but I can't find a fold here. I put in the call, and we're going to go off to a river. 10 of spades. I don't love it. Now we're loose to some 1-card straights and flushes. Sure enough, the big blind shows us queen 10 and scoops the side pot. The cutoff shows us ace queen, and they chopped the main pot, so he rivered Broadway as well. We are going to get scooped here, losing a pretty big pot. Unfortunate, that flop definitely screwed us over, but what are you going to do? We're going to move on. We look down at ace 3 of hearts, and we are on the button straddle. There's an under the gun player that raises to $20. The middle position player calls, the cutoff calls, and now I can either 3-bet or call this hand. I decide to just take a flop. After the last hand, maybe want to slow things down a little bit. So I just put in the call, and we're going off to a flop. The flop is 9, 5, 6 with 2 diamonds and a heart. We basically flop nothing with a backdoor flush draw. The action checks to me, though, and on this board, defending my straddle, I'll probably have more of this than anybody else in the hand. So I decided to start bluffing here with my backdoor flush draw, overcard, and backdoor straight draw, I guess. But I bet out for $45, and we only get 2 callers. That's from under the gun and the cutoff. I feel like I could definitely take this down a lot of the time on the turn. When they don't check raise the flop, they're never going to have better than 1 pair, and I think it's going to be unlikely that they have an overpair as well. Going to the turn card, which is the queen of spades, the action checks to me like I would expect it to, and I'm definitely going to fire a second barrel here. They definitely going to have some queen X of diamonds, but I think it's going to be likely that they just had a light float on the flop. I put out another barrel here, $110, applying maximum pressure, and luckily for us, they both find the muck, and we're going to scoop a pot uncontested with just ace high. These are the pots that are really important in live cash. Even if you're not running too well and you're like nothing's going right, you got to find the spots where you can just take it with aggression, and this was definitely one of them. We have 2 more hands left in this video. Hope you guys enjoy. If you're enjoying the content, click the subscribe button, and let's move on to the last few hands. We look down at pocket kings, a beautiful sight to see. There's 1 limp, and I raise it up to $20. The under the gun limper calls, so we're going heads up to a flop. Pretty rare here in Texas, I'm not going to lie. But we're going to a flop, which is queen jack 8 all hearts. Luckily, we have the king of hearts in our hand, and he starts with a check. I'll probably bet this board a lot. On monotone boards, you typically want to bet pretty small. I know I bet around half pot here for $20. I think I could probably go even smaller, but I look at my opponent's stack, and he doesn't have too much left. It's just about $100. So I definitely want to try to get this all in. And with the king of hearts, I don't really need to bet that big. So I put in a bet of $20, and he puts in the call. The turn now comes to jack of clubs, pretty safe for us. He checks it to me, and we're going to go again with a small bet here. Kind of boring, just $30. We're just trying to milk all we can out of a queen here, so I think a small bet will definitely do the job. I bet 30, he puts in the call. River's a good one, it's a 7 of spades. I think a heart probably would have been bad. I think it's likely that he has top pair, or maybe even a hand like 10-8 or 9-8 that might find a hero call on the river. So when he checks, I am again going to go for some more thin value. A super small bet here, I bet 40. He puts in the call. I show him the kings, and sure enough, we got the most we possibly could out of 8-5 of spades. I'm really happy we just took a really small bet line there. We got max value at a 3rd pair, 3 streets. Not sure how that's possible, but we're going to move on to the very last hand of the session, queen 10 of clubs in the cutoff. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a weird one, and there's definitely a live read that goes into it. There's a $5 straddle under the gun and 2 limps. I raise it up to $30, and we're going to get 4 calls. So hopefully we can flop pretty good with this hand. Going 5 ways to a flop, which is king 10 deuce with 2 diamonds. We flop middle pair, and that is about it. Now, the player in the straddle leads out for $25, and this is a player that's been action. He has been crazy this entire game, and I definitely think middle pair is going to be the best hand against him. The player in the low jack takes quite a long time before putting in the call. Always a little weird when somebody tanks multi-way, especially for a small bet like this. So I think it's probably pretty weak what he did. And the action's on me, and I kind of want to isolate this guy in the straddle because I'd said middle pair is going to be the best hand a lot, and I've seen him lead all the time with just random draws, bottom pairs, and stuff like that. The low jack in between us is definitely going to be a bit annoying, so I don't love calling. I think if I raise, the low jack might even fold some king X hands. So that's what I do. I'm isolating the straddle with middle pair. It sounds crazy, but I'm going to go with my read here. I raise it up to $70. I don't need to go super big. I just want to string this guy along. Once he calls the flop, we can check it down, get to showdown. That's the plan, and it's exactly what happens. The straddle puts in the call, and the low jack folds. Our plan is going pretty good here. Going to a turn card, which is the jack of clubs. It improves us to an open-ended straight draw, which is good. The straddle goes for a check, and I definitely just want to get to showdown and most likely pick off a bluff on the river. I check it back, and the river card is the 7 of hearts. The action starts on him, and he goes for a chunky bet here. Pretty big compared to the size of the pot, $145, and I've already made up my mind. I know how this guy plays. I put in the snap call with 3rd pair. Unfortunately, though, he shows us ace-queen. He turned the nuts. But I think our flop raise was pretty good. Unfortunately, he turned the nuts. What are you going to do? I'm happy I went with my read, but he just sucked out on us. And that's a part of the game, everyone. It's just how it goes sometimes. But pretty happy with the way I played this one. And that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the content, click the subscribe button. And let's head to the outro. Thank you guys for watching this video. That entire day, we had a profit of $2,460. That was my biggest winning day ever in the cash game streets. We ran really, really well, but I think we played pretty well too. Thank you guys for watching. Click the subscribe button if you like the content. There's going to be a lot more, and I'll see you in the next one.